Welcome to Private Members Business, where the opposition steps up with fresh ideas and bold motion.
Number one, and I'd say to deputies opposite, we must also be lawful in what we do. We must also be honest in what we do, and we must also not selectively quote comments made by my predecessor in this position, and now the Taoiseach, when he attended the Foreign Affairs Committee. And I'll get to that in a moment, and I welcome Senator Black to the gallery, congratulate her on her re-election, look forward to meeting her in the coming days. I want to thank and congratulate you, Deputy O'Leary, on your appointment. Look forward to working with you. And tonight is an important opportunity to update the House on developments in Gaza and the Middle East since this House was last in session. And I must say at the outset, I do think this must be one of the only chambers in the world, where the opposition would assert that the government of Ireland has not been on the side of the people of Palestine, human rights and international law. Ask the Spanish government, ask the Norwegian government, ask the Slovenian government, ask the European Council members, ask the President of Palestine, ask the Prime Minister of Palestine, ask the Ambassador from Palestine. Do they believe that the government of Ireland, on behalf of the people of Ireland, have stood up for international law, human rights and the right of the Palestinian people to self-determine their future and to live in a state of their own alongside a state of Israel in peace and security? It is only the opposition who seek to suggest that the government of Ireland does not stand with the people of Palestine, and the people of Ireland know that as well. And to have lofty phrases like any government on the side of humanity. This government's on the side of humanity, and we also represent the people of Ireland, and you don't have any sort of monopoly on that, and it must be exhausting suggesting you do. I welcome the fact to speak on this important issue tonight, and I do so knowing how deeply the people of this country care about what they're witnessing, what they've been witnessing for many years in the Middle East, and what they've been witnessing since the 7th of October 2023. I believe it is their wish that we should work together in the Oireachtas on these matters, and that we should look at all of the levers we can pull as a country to help bring about a lasting peace, and I believe they welcome many of the actions we've taken to date. I do want to say that rather than seek to be divisive in our language, there is actually broad agreement on many of the fundamental issues that need to be addressed in Ireland's overarching approach. But the motion tabled today does not reflect the track record of sustained and principled action by the Irish government on this issue. I must also note it is fundamentally inaccurate, because I do want to note for the official Dáil records that a paragraph of the motion relating to the Oireachtas Select Committee on Foreign Affairs and Defence on the 5th of November 2024 incorrectly attributes comments to officials in my own department. These comments were in fact made, and surely made in good faith, by an advisor to Senator Black, who was invited to intervene by the chair of the committee. Can I take it when I finish? On behalf of the... Well, if you pause the clock.
Yeah, a point of order. That was removed and is not on the motion before the Houses, and would not have been the motion. It is not before the Houses. So there might have been an earlier draft in which an error was made. That has been rectified, and we're not debating the motion that you're talking about. That error has been removed. It's not before the fact
that the published motion by Sinn Féin, published yesterday and publicised by yesterday, did wrongly attribute comments to officials in my department. But I accept that, Deputy. But it is important that Department of Foreign Affairs officials aren't misrepresented in their comments, and I stand by their own integrity in terms of what they say. So I am submitting an amendment this evening on behalf of the government, which sets out a full range of meaningful actions taken by government, as well as our broad approach to important recent developments and current considerations. Last month did see an agreement on a long-awaited ceasefire. It did see a hostage release deal, and this has brought much needed hope and relief to the people of Israel and the people of Palestine, lives that have been devastated by conflict. I've welcomed the release of the hostages, which sadly the opposition motion is silent on, who have been returned to their families since the deal came into effect. And we reiterate tonight in this House that all remaining hostages must be returned to their families. I do recall the motion previously adopted by this House, which unreservedly condemned the brutal attacks perpetrated by Hamas and other terrorist organisations on the 7th of October 2023, which indiscriminately and systematically targeted civilians, and the taking of hostages in any scenario is unconscionable. In the 16 months since then, this House has on many occasions expressed its deep concern about the unacceptable loss of civilian life and the catastrophic humanitarian situation in Gaza. We underlined that Israel, of course, had a right to defend itself from attack, but any such right has to be exercised in line with international law, including international humanitarian law. With a ceasefire deal now in place, our priority, both bilaterally and as a member of the European Union, must be to make sure the ceasefire is implemented, that it's upheld, and that the hostage release deal continues. We also must focus on steps that will support the provision of urgently needed humanitarian assistance into Gaza, something that the people of Gaza, the people of Palestine, the Palestinian Authority are crying out for. While in recent days there has been a much needed increase in the volume of aid entering Gaza, we need to see this so significantly scaled up, as well as a return of basic services, the provision of shelter, and a clear framework under which those who have been displaced by the conflict can return home. I recognise the efforts of many countries to help bring about a ceasefire. These mediation efforts must continue to ensure that it's implemented in full in all of its phases. There will, of course, be a need for international involvement, including by the United States and others, in order to stabilise and reconstruct Gaza. But let me be very clear, this country, the European Union and international partners have been consistently clear there can be no forced displacement of any civilian population from Gaza, nor occupation of the Strip by Israel. A two-state solution and the right of the people of Palestine to self-determine their own future has to be the destination, and any move to relocate any population against its will is absolutely contrary to the United States Security Council Resolution 2735 of the 10th of June 2024, which rejected any attempt at demographic or territorial change in the Gaza Strip, and the Irish government and Ireland are clear in relation to that. The focus of the international community has to be to ensure that efforts are put in place to continue the implementation of the ceasefire. Against this backdrop, it was enormously disheartening, to put it quite mildly, to see the entry into force last week of Israeli legislation that will have far-reaching consequences for UNRWA's operation in Gaza and the West Bank, including in East Jerusalem. No other UN agency or actor has the capacity or the infrastructure to replace UNRWA's unique mandate. To date, we in Ireland have provided more than €51 million in support for the Palestinian people since October 2023. This includes €38 million in core support to UNRWA, increasing our donations and contributions to UNRWA when others were withdrawing, as well as contributions to the UN's Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, the World Food Programme and others. Ireland has been a long-standing supporter of UNRWA. We'll continue to support its vital mandate, and I hope that's something that this Dáil can speak with one voice on. Gairloch, the UN Security Council has reiterated its unwavering commitment to the two-state solution and stressed the importance of unifying the Gaza Strip with the West Bank under the Palestinian Authority. The EU is active in its support to the Palestinian Authority and is taking action on the ground. Last week, the EU's civilian border assistance mission for the Rafah crossing point was redeployed at the request of Palestine and Israel in agreement with Egypt. The redeployment of EU BAM Rafah is a positive development which Ireland has worked for and strongly supported. This government has continued to maintain the intensive engagement with international partners, notably EU and Arab partners, that has been the hallmark of our approach. As Tánaiste, I've continued these contacts, including in recent days. At the Foreign Affairs Council last week, I underlined the need to focus on the urgent humanitarian needs in Gaza, while also taking a longer-term perspective that prioritises the two-state solution, including addressing threats to its very viability. I've also had calls with a number of counterparts, including the Jordanian Foreign Minister. Ireland is centrally involved in the work of the Global Alliance for the Implementation of the Two-State Solution, which was formally launched last year during the UN High-Level Week. This includes close cooperation with Arab and Gulf partners, including Saudi Arabia. As set out in the programme for government, the situation in the Middle East remains a central foreign policy priority, notably advocating for a sustainable peace between Israel and Palestine through the realisation of the two-state solution. Ireland was proud to recognise the state of Palestine in May of last year, and we took this important step to keep hope in the two-state solution alive. Throughout this terrible situation, Ireland has both bilaterally and at a multilateral level repeatedly called on Israel to comply with international law, stressing the universal applicability of international law, including international humanitarian law. This commitment has been supported by our actions. On the 6th of January, it was Ireland who filed a declaration of intervention in the ICJ's South Africa case against Israel under the Genocide Convention. A declaration of intervention was also filed in the Gambia's case against Myanmar on the 20th of December 2024. The purpose of both interventions is for Ireland to set out the factors it considers relevant in assessing whether a state has properly fulfilled its obligations under the Convention. I'm very clear in relation to what the programme for government says. This government will progress legislation in relation to the occupied Palestinian territories. We'll do so following the July 2024 International Court of Justice advisory opinion. I, as Taoiseach, sought the updated legal advice in relation to this. We will work with Senator Black. We'll work across the House in relation to this. But the issues, I must be honest, are not technical issues, as you portrayed. There are major legal issues. The people of Ireland need to know that. Pass the bill now sounds great, but they're major legal issues. Well, they've all been detailed in they've all been detailed, and legal advices have been shared, including by the legal advisor from the Department of Foreign Affairs at the committee. We're happy to provide you further. It's about getting legislation that is lawful, Deputy MacDonald, not about pretending to do something for the sake of it. We must get this right. We must continue to work in relation to that. And don't tut-tut at me, and don't suggest that you have a monopoly in relation to this issue. The Irish government, no, we don't need tut-tutting. We could be a little bit more mature in relation to this debate. You can do what you want, but you could be a little bit more mature in relation to this, because this government, thank you, Deputy, this government has taken a number of actions on behalf of the Irish people. I'm proud of the approach Ireland has taken. I believe Irish people are proud of the approach we have taken. I believe we are on the right side of history in this country, and I believe the Palestinian people, their president of the Palestinian Authority knows that too. One day you too might acknowledge the positive efforts of this government and the people of this country to help bring about a two-state solution. In the meantime, we will work to progress legislation in line with the programme for government, but we'll only work to progress legislation that is lawful, is constitutional and complies with EU law.
Like, share, and subscribe, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.